Chick-fil-A goes woke and stabs conservatives in the back by going the DEI route. The shooting that happened on Memorial Day in Hollywood, Florida is blamed on a bill that hasn't even gone into effect yet and wouldn't have really done anything anyway. And the U-Haul suspect, who was supposedly a Nazi and wanted to kill the President of the United States, basically has most of his charges dropped. All of that on today's After Work podcast. What is up, guys? I am sitting all snug in my blankie and drinking today an Angry Orchard because I did not want to do hard liquor and because Angry Orchard is not Bud Light. So, yeah. Yeah, I have a blanket on. It's cold and I don't feel like getting up and changing the thermostat, even though I don't even have to get up and I can just change it right from my phone. I am very lazy today. So, I don't have too many stories for you today. Most of them you've probably already heard of. One of them, maybe not. I don't know. But we're going to just go ahead and jump right in. So if you guys like, Chick-fil-A as much as I do, then this might be a little bit of a backstab to you, especially if you were one of the conservatives who had Chick-fil-A's back when they, basically said, hey, we're not going to go against our values, and the woke mob tried to cancel them. Well, unfortunate for you guys, those of you who supported them then, they don't care. Because they have decided that they are going to go woke. So, here's Chick-fil-A's page on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, some of you might be like, well, what's wrong with diversity and inclusion and equity and all that stuff? Well, see, that's the thing. There's nothing necessarily wrong with holding the opinion that everybody is equal, everybody should be included, and that diversity is necessarily a good thing. However, this particular DEI agenda is in many other companies, and it always turns into wokeness. It turns into unfairly, categorizing people by race, basically trying to fill quotas of people based on race, blah, 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 blah. And it all starts with the DEI inclusion stuff. So, first of all, committed to being better at together. What? Like, Chick-fil-A, not only did you go woke, but it seems like someone doesn't know how to spell or put a sentence together, like, at all. Anyway, so let's just go ahead and read this and see what they're trying to say that they're going to do. So, Chick-fil-A's corporate purpose is to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that is entrusted to us, to have a positive influence on all who come into contact with Chick-fil-A. Now, part of the reason that they got backlash a couple of years ago was because they were Christian. But the thing is that a bunch of conservatives supported them then. And now they're basically turning their back on conservatives by going the DEI route. So this here is Eric McReynolds, the VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And he says, Chick-fil-A restaurants have long been recognized as a place where people know they will be treated well. Modeling care for others starts in the restaurant, and we are committed to ensuring mutual respect, understanding, and dignity everywhere we do business. These tenets are good business practice and crucial to fulfilling our corporate purpose. So let me get this straight. Chick-fil-A has built their brand on being one of, if not the most friendly and polite and efficient fast food chains in the nation. And yet they feel they need a DEI. Why? Why do they feel that way? It might have something to do with, I don't know, money. Who knows? I don't know. They're a privately owned company. I don't think that they're public. So I don't understand why they would do this. If if it was publicly traded or whatever and there were investors who were voting on things, it would kind of make sense, but they're privately owned and they don't have to do this. In addition to the fact that they are well known for treating people fairly and politely. So why then do they feel the need to do this? I don't know. But it is what it is. So it goes on to say, one of our core values at Chick-fil-A is that we are better together. When we combine our unique backgrounds and experiences with a culture of belonging, we can discover new ways to strengthen the quality of care we deliver to customers, to the communities we serve, and to the world. We understand that getting better at together means we learn better, care better, grow better, and serve better. What? Getting better at together? I I someone mistyped. So, to achieve this, we focus on ensuring equal access, valuing differences, creating a culture of belonging. Okay, so here it says Chick fil A is an equal opportunity employer that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. We make employment decisions on a non discriminatory basis and remain committed to maintaining work environments free from any form of harassment. Why do you need a DEI VP for that? Because up until now, they've never had a problem with this. Or were they lying to the public? Like, I don't get, like, before now it's been the law. You can't harass, you can't discriminate or anything like that. And as far as I've never heard of a controversy from Chick-fil-A that anyone has ever said that they did. So why do they need this DEI all of a sudden? uh it the They say it has been and shall continue to be our policy that we do not discriminate in employment decisions or tolerate any form of blah, 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 blah. All of the things that you could possibly uh, just anything that is already basically illegal. My question is they say it has been and shall continue. Again, why then do you need a DEI person? It doesn't make sense. Just out of nowhere. Now, here's the thing. Chick fil A is a Christian company, and this DEI woke BS that just worms its way into companies tends to ruin them. Now, Chick fil A hasn't come out and said all of a sudden now they support like trans rights or gay people or anything like that. So the more conservative people probably won't have heard of this, but that stuff comes later. It normally follows the DEI thing. And here's the problem. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about, you know, political anything. Nobody cares about social anything. What we care about is, do you make a good chicken sandwich? They do. Yeah, they do. They make a fantastic chicken sandwich. Is your service good? Okay? Is your product good? That's all we care about. The moment you start taking sides on anything is the moment that you start crushing your brand, losing customers, all of that stuff. Just like Bud Light did, just like Target did. So, I'm not saying that Chick fil A is going to go full on woke right away. What I'm saying is this is a possible beginning to that. I would very strongly recommend that Chick fil A take a second look at what they're doing. Um, because it's kind of like a DEI consultant is like the equivalent of a red flag law. Everything the red flag law does is already in the law. You can't do it, or there are ways to actually do what the red flag law does without having the red flag law. It's redundant and makes no sense, and is basically just like a signal of like, hey, look what we're doing. We're doing something. Yeah, don't come after us. We're fine. It's like that. You know, it's virtue signaling is what it is. So I think that's what they're doing. I think Chick-fil-A is virtue signaling by doing this because up until now they even said that it's been their policy. So this is kind of doesn't make sense. Now, obviously, I don't know how long they've had this policy, like the DEI policy. It could have been longer, but after all the Bud Light thing, after the Bud Light, the Target, all that, people are starting to like pay attention. I said it in my last video that somebody it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. Bud Light was the pallet full of bricks that broke the camel's back. And because of that, people are digging into like all of the companies that, an ad for Ford came up, North Face came up, Miller came up, and people are pissed about it. Because we were willing to put up with this crap for a while, as long as it didn't get too crazy, and then it went too far. And now people are like, you know what? We were willing to put up with this amount, and then you took it too far, so no more. We're done. We're done with all of it. No more. Get away from me. I don't want to deal with it. All of that. That's what happens when you push too far, guys. It's up to you to decide if you want to continue eating at Chick-fil-A. I don't eat there that much as it is. So it's not really going to be that hard for me to kind of stay away from it. But for those of you who like Chick-fil-A is like your main source of sustenance and, you're not too keen on the DEI agenda that's starting to roll in, I would suggest, I don't know, go to Popeyes or something. Who knows? Go somewhere else for your chicken. So the next story that we've got going on here, the Florida shooting. So basically, there was a shooting on Hollywood Beach, 9 injured on Memorial Day. It's a terrible thing, but a lot of people started blaming the constitutional carry bill that Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law. The only problem with that is it doesn't go into effect until July 1st. So it could not have possibly influenced what happened, at all. And even if, it had gone into effect, it still wouldn't, and we'll discuss that in a minute. So, here we have 9 people were wounded Monday evening when gunfire erupted along a beachside promenade in Hollywood, Florida, sending people frantically running for cover along the crowded beach on Memorial Day. 2 men who police believe were involved in the shooting have been arrested, and investigators were looking for 3 other people who could be connected to the incident. The shooting happened on the Hollywood oceanfront boardwalk near a convenience store, a Ben & Jerry's ice cream store, and a Subway. Police spokesperson said 4 children between the ages of 1 and 17 were hit, along with 5 adults between 25 and 65. Police detained an unspecified number of individuals, but said none were identified as the shooters. 2 men who were believed to be involved in the shooting were arrested for weapons charges. The mayor said they weren't from the city, but from other cities in South Florida. 5 handguns were recovered, including 2 that were stolen, 1 from nearby Miami-Dade County and 1 from Texas. Investigators looking for 3 other individuals who could be connected to the shooting, and people were urged to contact investigators with information. So, important to note, these were criminals who had stolen 2 different guns. So, already, let's just say that guns were banned, right? Or you couldn't carry handguns, whatever. 2 of those 5 would still be in the hands of people, of these criminals, because they stole them. So it started shortly before 7 p.m. It started with an altercation between 2 groups that escalated to shots being fired. It's unfortunate we have law-abiding citizens who come to our beaches, and that gets interrupted by a group of criminals. So notice how in this whole article, it talks about the victims, and it talks about where it happened, and all this and the response of officers and passerbys and whatever. But it doesn't describe who did it. It doesn't describe who it was that started this whole gunfight. I have a feeling that's because it doesn't fit the narrative. Probably wasn't white people. Just saying. Now, here's the other thing. On social media, a bunch of people were talking about, and that's actually where I saw this, which is why I wanted to talk about it. A bunch of people on social media were sitting there talking about, this is all because Ron DeSantis passed, constitutional carry. Okay, first of all, these guys had these guns illegally. They stole these guns. So they were already breaking the law. Number one. Number two, constitutional carry doesn't go into effect until I think it's July 1st. That's a whole nother month from now. So they're also breaking the law by not having a permit currently, right? So they're breaking like 3 different laws already. First of all, they have the guns without a permit concealed. Second, they stole the guns. Third, they started shooting at each other. I'm pretty sure that's attempted murder. I'm 99% sure. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You tell me. But here's the other thing. Even if constitutional carry was applicable, they would still be breaking that law because constitutional carry only applies to guns that you own legally. It also only applies to people who can legally own said guns. I have a feeling, I have a very sneaking suspicion that these gentlemen were not on the up and up. I'm willing to bet that if they stole these guns, it's because they couldn't purchase them, meaning they're probably felons. And that means that constitutional carry does not apply to them because it is only for non-felons that can legally own firearms. And or felons who have had their records expunged and gotten their rights back. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems to imply that constitutional carry would not have changed this one way or another. In fact, the only way that I could see that constitutional carry might have affected this would have been a possible early resolution to the problem. You see, had there been others on that boardwalk who would have been able to legally carry their firearms without a license, perhaps they would have been able to stop the shooters before a bunch of people got hurt. Now, we don't know if that's what would happen because the chances are, it might have played out the same way. It might have gone a different way. We don't know. But it could have gone that direction. Who knows? Now, of course, whenever there's a shooting like this, people try to use it for gun control. But for those of you who didn't hear about it or heard it in passing, why is that? Why is it that we heard a ton about the shooting that happened in Texas, but not this one? It's probably because the type of guns that were used, the type of people who were using the guns, right? So in Texas, that shooting was done with an AR-15, and it was done by somebody who otherwise didn't have any type of serious criminal background. However, this shooting was done with handguns and probably by people with criminal backgrounds. So it just gets swept under the rug. And that's kind of what happens a lot of the time. Now, speaking of criminals, we have another story. The last story that we're going to talk about today is the White House Nazi U-Haul ramming suspect. So, for those of you who don't know, quick recap. Basically, I think it was last week, might have been the week before, can't remember exactly when. A dude in a U-Haul truck rammed into, I guess, some like concrete and metal barriers somewhere near the warehouse or near the White House, and the guy basically gave up immediately. And he said that he wanted to kill the president and all that, but he didn't have any weapons on him. No meaningful weapons. He didn't have like a bomb in the back of the U-Haul. The U-Haul truck was empty. He didn't even ram into the barricades like full speed. He did it at low speed, so much so it barely even damaged the U-Haul. And he had a Nazi flag on him and espoused, believing in Hitler, la 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 la. Now, people are saying he's a white supremacist, but it's funny because he's not white. Uh, so, yeah, that guy was charged with like a whole slew of things, right? So, the alleged neo-Nazi accused of ramming a rented U-Haul truck into White House security barriers will be held in federal jail pending a detention hearing next week. Uh, he slammed the box truck into barriers along Lafayette Square, just steps from the White House, late Monday. He had allegedly planned the attack for 6 months with his goal to get to the White House, seize power, and be put in charge of the nation. He was accused of threatening to kill the president if that's what I have to do. That's what he said, and praised Nazism and Hitler. He was originally charged with threatening to kill, kidnap, or inflict harm on a president, vice president, or family member, as well as assault with a dangerous weapon, reckless operation of a motor vehicle, trespassing, and destruction of federal property. His federal charges have since been downgraded to a single count of depredation of property of the United States in excess of $1,000. Why? 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 A lot of people think it's because he was put up to this or manipulated by the federal government in one way or another to be extreme. Because most people saw this and went, yeah, this is not believable, they decided that they were going to downgrade it and basically let him off so that way people didn't, dig too far into why he did this, blah 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 blah. But here's the thing: when you do, something like this, people are gonna dig. Now, I'm not suggesting that he's a Fed or that he was groomed by Feds. I'm just saying that that is a theory, but it's kind of hard to not agree with it. I mean, you got somebody who basically said, I want to kill the president, and then rammed a truck into barricades, and it's just so theatrical that it's hard to believe that this is a real thing that actually happened. He didn't even hurt anybody. He rammed the thing into the barricades at like 20 miles an hour, did barely any damage, got out with the Nazi flag, and then immediately surrendered. And then basically told everybody, "Oh, I wanted to kill the president." That is very much not how you kill the president. That's actually very much not how you kill anybody, for that matter. That's how you get in a fender bender, and that's about it. So that's why people are like, this is weird. And the way that they laid the Nazi flag out and took pictures and just the whole scenario seems weird, especially after all of these other attacks by supposed white supremacists who weren't actually white. Like the shooting in Allen, Texas, where the guy was supposedly a white supremacist of some sort, yet he shot up a mall and killed mostly white people. That doesn't make sense. But pay no attention to the man behind the curtain at all. Then we've also found out that the federal government had FBI agents and other three-letter agency agents instigating and on the ground during January 6th. And then there was the Governor Whitmore kidnapping case in which like 90% of the guys who supposedly came up with the plan to kidnap the governor were feds. And they did it all to trap like 2 or 3 dudes who really didn't want to do it but were goaded into it by like 12 other FBI agents. So, and then of course there's the historical context of, well, the government kind of has a track record of doing stuff to get us into things like, when they lied about I think it was Vietnam, they lied about us, our destroyer getting attacked or whatever, and it pulled us into a war. Um, and then of course you have all of the the weird experiments that they've done. You know that it just I'm sorry. If you trust the government, I don't, and I'm sorry, but this is super super questionable. Super questionable. And I don't know how anybody can sit here and look at this story and be like, "Yeah, that's legit." Doesn't look like it. Just saying. So, cuz I mean, look at this guy. That's a white supremacist? I I just I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, just look how nicely they laid this out for the cameras, right? I mean, there's nothing in the U-Haul. Like I don't get it. So it's I mean, look, there's it's not even really damaged. Like it's not like what the oh my gosh, I don't even he praised Nazis, I guess, for their great history and their authoritarian nature, eugenics, and their one world order. He said he looked up to Hitler, but like, it's so hard to believe. It's so hard to believe, man. I don't. I can't believe it. I honestly think that this was all just a thing that was drummed up by some federal guys because people were starting to question whether or not white supremacy is actually like a big problem, and there's not really anyone to blame. So they're just convincing people to do stuff like this. And I'm not. And here's the thing: like when people say, "Oh, the federal," you think the federal government is like convincing people to do this? They're thinking like somebody, some federal agent walks up to this guy's house and goes, "Hey, you know what would be a good idea? Go rent a U-Haul, get a Nazi flag, and drive it into the White House. And then when you get caught, say that it's because you love Hitler." Like that's not what is happening. Like when I'm saying that I think the federal government is grooming these people, what I think is happening is they are intentionally suggesting through an online algorithm maybe more extreme pages of a certain ideology, and then they are having undercover people inject themselves into these people's lives, and then goading them like, hey, screw that guy, right? And then relating it to their race or their gender or whatever, right? And so over time, this person incrementally starts to believe these things, and then they plant the seed of, hey, you know what you should do? You should overthrow the government, right? Or something like that. And then it takes time and then balloons. It's not like somebody just walks up to him one day and is like, hey, go do this, right? So that's what we mean when we think that stuff like that's happening. And that's the way they did it with the Governor Whitmore thing. Like they joined this militia group, and then they sat there with these guys and was like, "Hey, you know what would be uh, really interesting is like if somebody overthrew the government. This governor's such a blah 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 blah." And then like over time, they got more and more extreme with the rhetoric, trying to get these guys to do this thing. That's how they do it. It's not like a instantaneous process. Again, come to your own conclusions. I think I I don't know what to think about it. I don't think that it's legit, but I also can't discount the fact that crazy people exist. So, who knows, man. Anyway, guys. So, I am going to continue drinking because, well, it's the weekend. But if you guys like that, go ahead and like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I know it was kind of a short episode today. Again, had a lot going on. Not really having a lot of time to edit or film this weekend. And, it's life. It's life. Also, there's not like too much crazy stuff going on this week, so not a whole lot to talk about either. And some of the stuff was pretty mainstream, so I didn't feel like I needed to cover it. Um, anyway, guys, I appreciate all of you guys, and I will see you next week.